Hi all, welcome to the DMU and I podcast. This week I'm joined by Gareth Smith, who's the Town Planning Manager at Severn Trent Water. Gareth and I have been working together for many years, and today we are talking about the challenges there are with the next AMP and also the actual real enthusiasm there is within Severn Trent Water to really fix some of the problems that there are today. But listen on, we even talk about car gearboxes and water. You can work out what that means later on. Welcome, Gareth, to our podcast today. Great to have you here. So we're covering the water industry today, but really great for you to just give us a bit of background about you and who you are and how come you're sitting here with all your knowledge of the water industry.
Thanks, James. Good to be here. So I'm a town planner by profession, so that's kind of what I do. So did about 7 or 8 years as a planning consultant before I came to Severn Trent. I came to Severn Trent in 2009. So I've done kind of the best part of 16 years now in the water industry. I worked with you for a lot of that, over just over 3 amps now. And so I've been involved in various different things in that time with Severn Trent. So again, I'm a town planner. That's what I do. That's one of my priorities. But I get involved lots of the land side of things as well, as you know. So help the team with various questions about compulsory purchase and what we can do with land from a planning side of things. So get involved in lots of different things. It's been a very interesting 15, 16 years so far.
Yeah, 16 years ago. It makes me feel really old. But we met in a rather sweaty pumping station in Leicester for our Severn Trent induction. As you were saying, the water industry has evolved massively, since 16 years ago. I mean, I've been involved with water for even longer than that, but it's evolved massively since its privatisation.
Yeah.
And we're looking now at the next AMP, and there is a huge amount of work to do, which is going to present challenges, which is really what I want to try and talk about today. I think it'd be useful to start, though, in terms of kind of looking at where we are today. Water industry, if you see it in the press, is the bad boys, which certainly for me doesn't sit comfortably with me.
Not me.
But I think there is a lot of unfair press out there. But I think what I hope we can talk about today is the real drive there is within the industry to make things better.
Absolutely, James. I mean, we're not perfect. Nobody in the industry says we're perfect, or pretends to be perfect. But certainly from a Severn Trent point of view, we are really changing. We're investing a lot of customers' money into really improving things, and we're incredibly passionate about it. So yeah, lots of the stuff in the press, it's really difficult to read. It's hard to see. Some of it, across the industry is fair. Some of it, as you say, is unfair. But there are things we do need to improve, and that's why, as you say, AMP8 is a huge gear change for the industry. Certainly for us, it's a massive change. It's a monumental AMP. I would describe it as. We're talking about record levels of investment here. We've got a massive challenge on our hands, which is why we've got, great suppliers like you to help us with it. But there's an awful lot to do, lots of really interesting stuff, new stuff, innovative stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's really exciting, but the challenge is huge.
Just to go right back to the beginning, and I think it'd be useful just for context, so that people understand kind of why are we where we are today with the problems we're facing. One of the big problems that the UK has is they don't have a dual system, and what I mean by that is they don't have a system that deals with dirty and runoff. It's all in the same system.
Yeah.
How does that actually work today? The mechanics of it. How do your systems cope with it? Or don't?
I think lots of people don't quite understand how the system works or doesn't work in certain people's eyes. But essentially, you mentioned the system, the one system, the stuff that, when we flush the toilet, when it rains, it's all going to a sewage works somehow. And when we're in storm, lots of the works just cannot cope with the flow. And that's why we have, essentially, we divert to river. We have to, there's nowhere else it can go. So we have to spill to river. Spill to river is somewhere we don't want to be in the industry now. Okay, it's had lots of press. We as a business are looking to spend, circa £1.5 billion over the next 5 years to really reduce significantly those spills to river. We've got to stop doing it or really reduce it and bring it down. So that's what happens. And I think people don't quite appreciate the way the system is, as you mentioned. And it's going to take, we're talking about the next 5 years as AMP8, it's going to take multiple AMPs before as an industry we really get on top of this problem and really bring spills down so they're exceptional rather than the norm. So there's a lot of work to do, but we're on the right track. The investment is going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in terms of the problem we have in the UK. We're not alone. This is a global problem. Global warming doesn't help because you're tending to have flash floods and all that kind of stuff, which really pressurizes the system, which weren't designed for the kind of weather systems that we're getting. Populations are increasing everywhere around the world, so it's a problem everywhere.
It is.
I think the encouraging thing for me, and I think what people need to realise is, and they won't believe me perhaps when I say it, but the UK is leading actually the change.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, it sounds a bit biased, but there's a lot of truth in this. Severn Trent's a massive part of leading that change. We are. I'll come back to spills to river, combined sewer overflows, CSOs. We've got lots of those. We've got a massive investment plan to address them. We started at the back end of AMP7, so a year ago, starting to invest in these things. There's lots of different ways we can do it, lots of different solutions to try and reduce spills to river. Use of AI, James, in all of this, technology, we're starting to use that. That's going to be a bit of a game changer for us as well.
Just so we're clear, because there'll be quite a few people on this call going, what he's talking about amps. Yeah. What's an amp? Do you want to just explain in layman's term what an amp is?
It's an asset management period. So essentially we work in 5-year business plans in the water industry. So now 2025 to 2030 is what's called AMP8. So it's essentially our 8th business plan period. And already we're planning for AMP9. So it has started. Yeah. So these things take a lot of planning. So AMP8 is our 8th, business plan period. And over that time, Ofwat essentially says, okay, based on your plan, what you need to do, you can spend that amount of money to do all these things that you need to do. Yeah. So that's where we are with it.
In terms of the AMP, people need to understand that 5-year program. And I think there's a few companies at the moment who are appealing that decision. Yeah, I think there's 6 companies in total doing that, which is going to be interesting to see where that ends up. Severn Trent, I know, have said, no, we're going with it. We're not appealing. And you are really going for broke with it, aren't you?
I mentioned the amount of work that goes into these things, James, and we are very good at it. So Ofwat loved our plan. We were happy with what we got, the final determination. So we wanted to run with it. We essentially started AMP8 12 months ago, really, to give ourselves a chance of delivering it. We know we need an early start. We've got so much to do. Yeah. So again, we see ourselves as we're cracking on. Those companies you mentioned, there's so much to do in AMP8. They want to get through that process as quickly as possible because there is an awful lot to do. So I wish them well, but we've got to carry on with what we're doing.
I think if you look at, then you talked about the enormity of what we're going to do. I think Ofwat and the current determinations have approved £104 billion spend across the water industry over the next 5 years. It'd be quite useful for you to talk about maybe where you were last AMP in terms of spend as opposed to where you are this AMP, so you can see, people can understand the enormity. And I think it'll also then be useful, and we'll talk about this afterwards, it's all good talking about pounds, but then talk about what does that mean?
In very simple terms, James, AMP8 is essentially a doubling of AMP7 financially. Yeah. So we're around £6-7 billion total business plan AMP7. Yeah. This one is best part of £15 billion. So that's TOTEX, that's total expenditure. Yeah. So with that, there's about £6-7 billion spend on actually getting things built and delivered for customers. So been working on for the last 12 months is to get into a kind of an operating rhythm. So we know we can actually do that. We can turn it over. We can actually spend the money. We can deliver projects on time at that level because we've never done that before. Yeah. It's an awful lot of money to spend and to spend it properly. So we've got into the operating rhythm. We've now got to make sure that over the AMP we spend that money because it's customers' money. Yeah. We have to spend that money wisely and efficiently to make sure we deliver on the business plan.
And in terms of that, to put that also, just because you got more money, you are going to have to, you're doubling your requirements in terms of what you're going to have to build and deliver at the end of that AMP, which also means that you've got a workforce of X that needs to turn to Y, which again is a challenge.
It's a massive challenge across all the disciplines. So, we're an engineering, but we've got lots of engineers. Yeah. We've brought a lot of that in-house, lots of our design capabilities now are in-house. Those resources are hard to find, and to find the resources that we want with the right skill set. Yeah. Finding the right people, the resource, the skills, people you want to do this work is really hard. It's a really competitive marketplace. And that's something we are concerned about. We're happy with the resource we've got at the moment, but, we know it's going to be such a challenge to make sure we've got the people we need and the skills we need to deliver. It's all right having the money, but have you got the people to make sure you can deliver it over that period?
And I totally with you on that, and that it's a challenge. And I think you've got to make sure that actually, as a company, as an employer, that you are attractive.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say, I've been involved with, talk about changing companies. Severn Trent has evolved massively over the last 15 years.
Huge.
And I think has modernised very, very effectively in my head.
Yeah.
From what I used to see. And I'm sure what you used to see.
Yeah. I mean, we've, Liv Garfield, our chief exec, she's really led that change, to be honest. She's done so much work. And Liv is all about innovation and doing things differently and being the best.
Yeah.
And she, we all want to do that. We always kind of follow the path she takes us down. We want to be the best at everything. We want, on the spills side of things, we want to be the positive outlier. We want to get away from that negative press. We want to be the company that people point to. Well, Severn Trent can do it. Why can't the rest of the industry do it? That's where we want to be. And it's across the board. We want to be the best at everything.
They all really do care.
Yeah.
And there is a big pride thing and being proud of working for, particularly with Severn Trent, I find a real pride thing there about working for Severn Trent.
It really kind of concerns and almost upsets me when I think that people out there don't really think we are passionate about it and we just say, they've spilled to river again, they don't care. God, we really care. I would argue there's people in our industry, in our company, that care the most about this in the country. We really want to sort this out. We hate spilling to river.
Yeah.
We really want to sort it out. So that passion, that pride is really powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
And just going back to the spend, I guess, can you kind of, and you're not going to give me every single little bit of detail, but what is Severn Trent actually going to be building in the next AMP?
So, forgive the kind of broken record thing here, but so £1.5 billion I mentioned on spills. So that's obviously quite a chunk. You're then into lots of work at sewage treatment works to improve what goes to river in terms of final effluent. So taking lots of the phosphates and ammonia out of that final effluent. We're going to be on the clean water side, lots on resilience. So a number of strategic pipelines kind of across the region to move water around to make sure that certain reservoirs, in the summer months, are full. Or fuller than they have been. So lots of pipelines, strategic pipelines to make sure, essentially that our grid can operate at peak times and it can operate with no kind of risk to customer supply. But also reducing the volume of stuff that goes to sewage works. You guys did lots of work for us in AMP7 in Mansfield on, sustainable drainage. So we're going to do some more of that and try and basically divert stuff away. Yeah. That's all really good. It's innovative. It's nature-based. There's biodiversity benefits in that. Yeah. And it's interesting, and it actually, Mansfield, for example, it greens places up as actually an amenity benefit. So it's investment across the piece, really, James. But lots of it is about river quality, getting rivers to really good quality, reducing those spills, and then the kind of water resilience piece.
And you talked about £1.5 billion worth of spend on the CSO programme. Can you just bring that to life a bit and what that means? And so, if someone was looking at a sewage works, what are they going to see happening?
Looking at sewage works, a very kind of traditional way of doing this would be you put a new tank in, the tank takes the volume, you don't spill to river because the tank takes it. So you could have a tank that's kind of the size of this room, or two tanks that size of this room. You could have a tank that's maybe 3 or 4 times the size of this room. There's lots of different ways we can do this. Yeah, we have lots of situations where we have high frequency, low volume spills. So we're talking about we spill, but we don't spill very much. So you could have essentially a reasonably small box, which would take the spill, the volume which would otherwise spill. Yeah. We could do lots of those. We can do wetlands. We can take water out of the catchment and divert it. We could do that. Sustainable drainage is a big thing with this. Yeah. We can do work at the CSO itself, enlarge it, improve it, put a new one in. Yeah. And there's lots of different ways. It's not a one size.
Are you finding that actually we've talked about innovation quite a bit, but in terms of that area alone, I mean, the way we treat sewage, is that innovating?
There is now lots of. I won't profess to understand it, James. There's lots of innovation in this space. Lots of different ways of treating sewage. There's lots of. We're trying to kind of take as much carbon out of it as possible. Yeah, it's quite difficult to do that because it's quite intensive. Yeah, but there's lots of different ways to kind of. Because lots of the big works we have, we've got to learn to try and treat more flow and not really increase the works substantially. Yeah. So you need new technology to do that. There's lots of different ways to do it. You talk about cooking sludge and those kind of solutions, kind of big incinerators for sludge essentially. Yeah. And you maybe get some energy out of that as well. So there is lots of innovation in that space.
And you guys have invested a huge amount in river monitoring, haven't you?
Massive. And we're going to invest an awful lot more in AMP8. There's hundreds of these kind of monitors that are required, James, Yeah. But there's there's a number of things the government could do which should really speed up our delivery, kind of cut some of the red tape.
And I mean, I'd agree on every level. I think my worry with the government is that they always look at the big projects.
Yeah.
And I think they forget that actually the lion's share of the work is not the big sexy stuff. It is actually the grunt work that needs to happen. So I just hope they don't forget about that, because that needs to happen.
I often think, you know, if I had that kind of elevator moment with Keir Starmer, what would I say to him about our industry? And it's what you just said there. Do you realise, Sir Keir, you know, the kind of things we have to get planning permission for? Do you realise how hard it is for us to go and access land to do this, to put a river quality monitor in? It shouldn't be that hard, should it? I think it'd be probably blow his mind how difficult some of these things are when it shouldn't be.
Definitely. So just then going into, you know, land and planning is what you and I have lived and breathed on the Severn Trent contract for the last 15 years, 16 years. Looking ahead, so all of this work is going to involve, yes, some construction, but also some, like you talk about, innovation, some other ways of achieving what we're trying to achieve here. From a land and planning perspective, though, let's look at that in a little bit more detail in terms of where you see the big challenges ahead. And I'll start with probably the one that worries me the most, which is the planning element. And what I mean by that is the delays that there are. Is the planning system fit for purpose for what actually, not just water company, but every other kind of infrastructure company is trying to do?
I would say the system is fit for purpose. The system, though, doesn't work very well in very simple terms, because it doesn't really have enough people and skills in it to make it work. The planning officers we deal with are so busy, they're so pushed, they're sure to turn over all the caseload. So this is not a go at planning officers. You know, they're all...
There aren't enough of them.
There's not enough of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we do have lots of delay, you know, and some of it's stuff that we can obviously improve, but there's too much delay in terms of getting consent for infrastructure. You know, we have to deal with lots of, obviously, community, you know, objection for things, but, you know, we need to be better at communicating what we're doing to customers and the benefits. But yeah, the planning system has got some serious issues, resource and skills. How do you get more people into the planning system to, you know, to work it? The government said recently, you know, Prime Minister said himself, you know, we'll get hundreds more planning officers in. Well, I don't think they're just waiting to be what's in. No. Where do they come from? You know, so we need to encourage people to get into planning. You know, what are we doing in schools? How are we getting people to take planning courses to actually make a career out of it? You know, how many kids doing their A-levels now are thinking about a career in the water industry where they can help deliver new infrastructure? Yeah. Probably not many. We need to try and change that. On the land and planning side, we could really, you know, illuminate the opportunities and how interesting it is.
Yeah, if I think back to kind of the beginnings of DM and trying to recruit right at the beginning, it's always been a struggle. I think we were seen as the dirty side of surveying and planning almost, in terms of kind of not very interesting, a bit dull. But that definitely is turning in terms of, I think people are now saying, oh, hang on a minute, I can get a job here that's going to make a difference. Yeah. And I think that's the messaging I want to try and get out. And I think another area, again, which I think is really encouraging, is the apprenticeship route as well. Is that I think, you know, we've got a number of apprenticeships through here. We've got the land apprenticeship, but I think that should be encouraged. I think that's where you're getting people who are at a school age who don't want to go to university, don't want to have the debt, but getting them into a career that actually ticks their boxes because they're making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a positive thing. Yeah.
It's quite hard to explain to the layman what I do, you know, and I think it's the same for lots of people in the industry who are in land and planning. So what do? You consent things. What's involved with that?
It's always the struggle to put it really succinctly in terms of what it is we do. But I do think there is a golden opportunity now with, you know, and certainly in you know, in what we're doing, in actually it being a really worthwhile career that's putting something back. There's real benefit in what we're doing.
And that's maybe, if you can take some positives out of the negative press, it's the fact that, well, we're in the news. Yeah. You know, there are things to be done here. Yeah. You could be a part of solving these problems. Yeah. You could come and make a difference. Yeah. That could be quite appealing to people if it was, you know, promoted in the right way.
So the river monitoring, I think this is quite an interesting one in that it's going to create lots of really, really good data. Yeah. Not just the water companies, but for the Environment Agency, at the end of the day, for Joe Public, in terms of telling them what the quality of the water is and where the problems are. But that from a planning perspective, we have to jump through hoops.
Yeah. Well, I think most people kind of watching this, if they can imagine, that everyone's seen maybe a little kind of green box at the side of the road, that kind of small cabinet. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. That kind of by river with something kind of going into the river that's, sending the data to that box. These are really small installations which are going to give us that really valuable data. Yeah. And, technically, James, at this stage, that they need planning consent.
Yeah.
Does the country really need hundreds and hundreds of planning applications for really small river quality monitors?
Well, and it goes back to the question we just said before, where you haven't got enough planners.
They don't want them
in the local authorities.
They don't
want them.
They don't want them.
So it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's an easy one.
It costs them more to handle than they get in a fee. Yeah. They don't really want it. And then we come on to, permitted development rights, James, something I'm very passionate about. Yeah. We've not had a change to those for quite a while. Yeah. Now is the time, and, work is afoot to try and do something with government. Some very easy wins here, river quality monitors, permitted development, right? They should be. Yeah. We shouldn't have to be looking at planning applications for these things. Yeah. Given the amount we need to roll out, it's not good use of customers' money. For example, do they want to spend the money on that? Do planning officers want to deal with these? No. It's that's a really good example of how we just really speed things up.
And the mood music coming out of government is good. They put up changes to the NSIP program process, which is again very interesting. Be interesting actually what it looks like when it comes out, but it's still interesting. You just, like we said before, we just need them to think on the smaller projects as well, because the smaller ones almost will have more. It'll have more impact if they make these changes.
It's that business as usual kind of the day-to-day stuff, the normal stuff that we do that's really important for customers in the network. We should be getting planning permission where we really need to get planning permission, where we're going to have real impacts in the environment, impacts on communities, potential impacts on amenity, where things are significant, in local communities and landscapes. Yeah. That's where we should be spending our time and effort. Yeah. Not doing dozens, potentially hundreds of applications for really small installations, which everyone wants us to put in. Yeah. Why do we need to go through that process? Yeah. It's
And I think the other thing that I wanted to touch on today is this whole, we got Trump going drill, 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 obviously, but we got Sir Keir Starmer going build, build, build. Yeah, right. And he's changing planning legislation to try and actually get Britain building. He's looking at the compulsory purchase situation there, trying to lose hope value so that we can get land more easily, etc. So he's really pushing that. I just hope they don't forget that actually, great, you get all these houses built, but they all need water. They will all have a sewage connection. And actually they need to think about, more than just the plot of land.
They do. Government naturally focuses on the big stuff, Yeah. So projects where we're looking to get water down to the southeast of London, I understand that's a big national focus, right? I get that. Yeah. As you say, quite rightly, there's lots of other things that companies do which could be improved.
We're a small island with a big population. And so, I think every single bit of building that goes on, we just need to all think about the big picture here. Because if you don't, you'll end up back in the same place where we're finding ourselves now, with another problem to deal with. Whereas if we thought about it from the word go, we could actually design systems, be clever with the way we do it, so that actually we don't end up with a massive problem happening.
Government wants us to go further, faster, quicker, all this great stuff. And we want to do that as well. Yeah. But just help us do it. Yeah. Really help us do it. And at the moment, a lot of the things we have to deal with are unhelpful.
However, we've got the system we've got, and we're tooling ourselves up to really deliver with the system we've got. And you talked about innovation, and I think for me, what I'm seeing with innovation is that innovation is a funny word, because everyone thinks innovation is going to be some big, sparkly, great big thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. The small bits of innovation are the really sort of the key bits. And you talk about Mansfield. That's innovation. Yeah. And it's not a massive, huge project, but you look at what it did, and actually the benefits, you talked about it being a double benefit, because it greens up an area, improves an area, and deals with water, I think those kind of projects are the ones I think we need to really kind of double down and look at what the options are.
We have a partnership with Aarhus Vand in Denmark, and we've learned a lot from them about the use of AI and how the systems operate, so AI is, genuine is operating systems. It's okay, this is happening, I need to close this valve off, we need to divert this down there. It is, it's monitored, but it is making decisions. It's closing valves, opening valves, it's preventing flooding, it's preventing spills.
Creating that smart network, isn't it?
A smart network. Exactly. Yeah, it's really exciting and that's really interesting.
So we talked about UK, having a real change and actually doing more of a change on the way they deal with sewage than a lot of other countries in the world. Are they learning from other people?
Absolutely, James. Yeah, I mean, we have people in the business who essentially have been around the world looking at different ways of doing this. So the number of examples. So Singapore, for example, are kind of often mentioned as kind of the world leaders in dealing with sewage and deal with water because they've got various pressures, but they have very good. A lot of them have actually had a relationship with them. We're in partnership with Aarhus Vand in Denmark, with Melbourne Water in Australia. So we're going around the world trying to find partners that we can learn of, and they can obviously learn off us as well. It's not just one way street. But there's lots of things we're getting off these companies that are really improving how we go operating the network. Real innovations. I mentioned the use of AI. How that can work. But we've learned a lot from these other companies in different countries.
Just going onto the land side, so we talk about planning and some of the challenges we've got there. Land, I agree with you. There's the overarching kind of resource bit. We've got to find the right people to do the right job, and that's absolutely right. But a lot of other utility and infrastructure companies will look at water and go, you lucky buggers, you've got a 3-month notice. You just slap it on them and off you go. Now, you and I know that, yes, we are lucky we've got that, but it doesn't quite work like that, does it?
It doesn't work like that, no. Sometimes it does, which is great. But yeah, we face lots of difficulties with land
we do.
We unfortunately work like that.
Yeah, and customer is king. And I think that's really, really key part is that, and certainly I think if you look at the evolution of Severn Trent, I think that's one of the key things that I've seen happen is that the customer has gone to the top of the list.
Absolutely.
And is absolutely the number one priority. And that goes down into the land when we're trying to affect third-party land. They are a customer.
They are a customer.
Yes, we need to look after them. So, I think one of the things I've seen is that no matter you got the 3-month notice, we still do the proper consultation. We do listen to what people have got to say, and we change our mind and our schemes as a result of that.
I mean, you guys have been a massive part of that, haven't you, over the last 3 AMPs in improving how we do business with landowners, how we access land, how we reinstate it, how we compensate. You guys have played a big role in that, and the landowners are customers, but also, James, now more than ever, one landowner customer who doesn't want us to put a pipe through the land is a difficult situation. But if that's preventing benefit to thousands of customers over there, we've got to use the powers that we have to get that pipe in the ground. We can be as amenable as possible, but we can't let people stop us putting assets in the ground that are going to benefit thousands of other customers. So we do things properly, but we've got to use the powers we've got to deliver for everybody.
What we can't do is you can't build your pumping station.
Yes.
And I think that's where it doesn't quite add up to me, is that there is for a relatively small piddly pumping station, there is a process that needs to be followed 100%. But I think that's, again, something that could be looked at is actually on a scale. Why are you doing a CPO on the same vein with a small pumping station that you would do on a dual carriageway?
Yes.
It just doesn't quite add up to me.
It doesn't, and you're quite right to say that other infrastructure providers do look at us and go, well, you can't mow and your powers are incredible. We'd kill for those kind of powers. And yes, they are very good, but I agree with you, they're not quite good enough. We shouldn't, as you say, be in a situation where we might have to go down the CPO route for a small pumping station when we should really probably have a different kind of power to do it.
But just going back to the innovation thing again, I think quite innovative of how you're transferring water across your patch and how you're doing it.
Yeah. So the SROs, James, are strategic resource options. So the whole industry is looking at various SROs. And the one you mentioned there is the Grand Union Canal transfer. So the concept of the Grand Union Canal transfer is essentially we would divert final effluent from Minworth, which had additional treatment. So that water that we send to river, we give it more treatment at Minworth, then we'll send it via pipe up to the canal. If go down the Grand Union Canal, to kind of Leighton Buzzard, that kind of area. Where Affinity Water we're partnered with, they would take that water out, they'd treat it, they'd store it, get it into supply. So, there's lots of work down the canal. The Canal and Rivers Trust are obviously a major player in this, one of our partners. So that involves various bypasses, pumping stations to get the water down. Essentially, to help people understand what it is, essentially the canal, I think of it's like a linear reservoir, basically. So you put water in at the top, take more out at the bottom, essentially is how it works. But it's a bit more complicated than that. I'm underselling it. We're transferring water that we have, that we can spare, down to the southeast. That's an incredible thing. And you're going to see more of that over the next few AMPs. And we as a business are looking at other SROs at the moment as well, other things we can do with water in our region where we can use it more effectively.
This is the first time probably since the 60s that this kind of investment has happened in the water industry.
Yeah. People in the industry have talked for a number of years about a national grid for water. Yeah. And essentially what these projects are starting to do is essentially creating, James, a national grid. So I think you'll find, in years to come, it will feel more like a national grid where we can get water around not just water around different water companies' areas, but more easily around the country where it's needed.
So just to sort of summarise where we're at, Gareth, my sense is that, I think I feel the same as you do probably, but that we're heading into AMP 8.
We're in it.
Yeah, and we're in it. We are in it. We're in it. But we're heading into it in terms of we're into year 1, and there is a bit of apprehension because oh my God, it looks like it's a mountain to climb. But I get the feeling this isn't just you and me talking. This is actually the industry as a whole. There's real excitement actually about what the benefits it can bring. I think the challenge we've got is bringing the public with us because we need to turn that ship around somehow.
We do.
So they can see that actually this money that's being spent is part of the UK PLC kind of foundations, that need to be put in place.
There's a huge misunderstanding out there in terms of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
This whole misconception, well, the water just comes down from the sky. All you guys do is basically store it and then to send it to us. That's easy because, this view that it's a private company, the shareholders just get loads of cash, and they just do the bare minimum is not true. We're spending a lot of money on assets, on the network, improving things, making things better environmentally, Talked about rivers a lot, but it's a massive priority. We can see massive improvement. But people, the customers, bills have gone up to cater for all this.
Yeah.
Naturally, people want to see, well, where's my money going? What are they spending it on?
Yeah.
And we all need to be better as industry at letting customers know what we're spending it on. Yeah. And they can see the benefit.
Yeah.
I think we'll do that.
Yeah.
Take a while, but we need to change the mood.
It's a bit like, you take your car into the garage for a new gearbox, right? And you because it's knackered, right? You got to pay for it and do it, and it costs a load of money. But actually, you then drive it out and it's working fine and brilliantly. And we've got a bit of a broken gearbox at the moment that needs to be fixed. And you just hope people realise the benefit of actually we're not just going to replace it like for like. We're putting in something much better at the end of it.
What about all the great stuff that's already happening that we're doing? People don't really see that. We need to be better at celebrating that.
Well, look, let's. I tell you what, I say to a lot of people, but when we're a bit older and wiser in 2 years' time, we'll have you back and we'll see how we're getting on with AMP 8.
Yeah, lad.
Might even be talking about AMP 9 at that point. Anyway,
well, I said it before. We're already planning for AMP 9. Yeah. Meetings have already started.
Yeah.
So that's how long it takes.
But rightly so.
Well, yeah. Again, but customers will not appreciate how much work goes into this planning to make sure that we identify what we have to do and how much it's going to cost. It's really important.
Thanks, Gareth.
Thank you, James.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Cheers.